There's a sound you've probably heard hundreds of times in your life. Maybe it's the first thing you notice in the morning, when a warm weight settles on your chest and a low, steady vibration fills the room. Maybe it happens when you sit down after a long day and a small animal immediately decides your lap is the most important place in the world. It's soft, it's rhythmic, it's deeply, almost irrationally comforting. It's a cat purring. And for most people, that sound means one simple thing: the cat is happy. But what if I told you that's only a fraction of the story? What if that peaceful rumble was something far more complex biologically, neurologically, and evolutionarily than any of us ever assumed? What if your cat was doing something closer to self-medicating or running an internal healing system every single time it made that sound? Today, we're going to break down the full science of the cat purr, where it comes from, how it works, what it actually means, and why researchers believe it may be one of the most uniquely fascinating adaptations in the entire animal kingdom. Let's get into it. Before we can understand why cats purr, we need to understand how. And the answer is more intricate than most people expect. For a long time, people assumed cats purred the same way they meow by pushing air through their vocal cords. Simple enough, right? But that doesn't explain why a purr sounds the way it does, or why it's continuous rolling seamlessly through both the inhale and the exhale without any break. Here's what's actually happening. Deep inside the cat's brain, there's a structure called a neural oscillator, essentially a built-in rhythm generator. Think of it like a metronome that the brain never switches off. This oscillator fires rapid, repetitive signals down through the nervous system to the muscles of the larynx, the voice box located in the cat's throat. Those laryngeal muscles respond to the signal by twitching, rapidly, repeatedly. The opening between the vocal cords, called the glottis, dilates and constricts in quick succession, almost like a valve being rapidly opened and closed. This happens somewhere between 25 and 150 times per second, depending on the cat. As air moves through this rapidly fluctuating opening, both when the cat breathes in and when it breathes out, the interrupted airflow creates that characteristic vibration, that hum, that rumble. And because it happens on both sides of the breath cycle, the purr never pauses. There's no gap. It's continuous, almost mechanical in its steadiness. Now, one of the big scientific debates for decades was about whether this was a so-called true purr and why it mattered. Researchers distinguish between cats that could purr but not roar, like domestic cats, bobcats, and cheetahs, and cats that could roar but not purr, like lions and tigers. The difference comes down to the hyoid bone, a small structure at the base of the tongue connected to the larynx. In big roaring cats, part of the hyoid is made of flexible cartilage, which allows the larynx to move freely enough to produce a roar. In purring cats, the hyoid is fully ossified, turned to rigid bone, which doesn't allow for a roar, but does allow for that unique, continuous purring motion. Interestingly, cheetahs are a sort of exception to the rule. They purr, they can't roar, and the sounds they make are remarkably varied and complex. But that's a conversation for another video. The key point here is that purring isn't just a sound, it's a full physiological process. A coordinated loop between the brain, the nervous system, and the musculature of the throat, running like a background program that the cat can maintain for hours. Now, here's where the story gets genuinely complicated. Most of us grow up thinking purring equals happiness. Cat is purring, cat is content. Simple. But spend any meaningful time around cats or talk to a veterinarian, and you'll quickly learn that's not the whole picture. Cats purr when they're relaxed, yes, but they also purr when they're frightened, in pain, recovering from illness or injury, about to give birth, in the final stages of dying. So clearly, purring isn't just an expression of joy. It's something more fundamental than that. Animal behaviorists now widely believe that purring functions as a multi-purpose communication and self-regulation tool. It has different meanings in different contexts, and understanding those contexts is key to understanding the behavior. Let's walk through a few of them. Contentment purring is the one we're most familiar with. A cat curled up in a sunny spot, being gently stroked, producing that low, even hum. This is the cat in a state of calm, communicating that it feels safe, warm, and at ease. It may also serve a social bonding function between the cat and the human or other animal it's comfortable with. Stress purring is different. Cats at the vet being held, surrounded by unfamiliar smells and sounds, will often purr intensely. New owners sometimes mistake this for the cat being fine. It's not. The purring here is more like a coping mechanism, a way to self-soothe in an overwhelming situation. It's not so different, conceptually, from a person humming to themselves when they're nervous, or a child rocking back and forth to calm down. The cat is using the act of purring to regulate its own nervous system. Pain or illness purring is perhaps the most counterintuitive. Cats that are seriously injured or gravely ill will sometimes purr constantly. To an observer, this can be deeply confusing, even upsetting. Why is a suffering animal making the sound we associate with happiness? The best current explanation is that this form of purring is essentially therapeutic. The cat is purring not because it feels good, but because the act of purring is producing physical effects that help it cope or even heal. We'll get into the physiology of that in the next section, because it's remarkable. Nursing purring is one of the earliest forms. Kittens begin purring within a few days of birth, and it's believed to serve as a communication channel between mother and kittens during feeding. The mother purrs to signal safety and location. The kittens purr back. It's a mutual reassurance loop. And because kittens can't yet meow and nurse at the same time, purring becomes their primary way to communicate while feeding. The fact that purring emerges this early in a cat's life, before their eyes even open, strongly suggests that it's not learned behavior. It's hardwired. It's instinct. And then there's one more category we need to discuss, and it's the most manipulative one of all. We'll get to that shortly. This is the part of the science that genuinely surprises people when they first hear it. We know that cat purrs typically vibrate at frequencies between 25 and 50 hertzes, with some cats producing vibrations up to 150 hertzes. These aren't just sounds, they're physical vibrations that travel through the cat's body, and when a cat is resting on or near you, through your body too. Here's the interesting part. There's a substantial body of research in medicine and physical therapy on the therapeutic effects of low-frequency vibration on living tissue, and the numbers overlap with cat purring in striking ways. Studies have shown that exposure to frequencies in the range of 25 to 50 hertzes can stimulate bone growth and increase bone density. This has been researched as a potential treatment for osteoporosis, as well as for healing fractures more rapidly. At around 50 hertzes, vibration has been shown to promote the growth of cartilage and joint mobility, relevant in the treatment of conditions like arthritis. Frequencies in the 100 hertzes range have been associated with reduced pain signaling and improved healing of soft tissue injuries, including tendons and muscles. In short, the frequency range at which cats purr maps almost perfectly onto frequencies that researchers have identified as biologically beneficial. Elizabeth von Muggenthaler, a bioacoustics researcher, was one of the early scientists to draw this connection formally. She proposed that the vibrational frequencies of cat purrs are within the therapeutic range shown to promote healing of bones and tissues, and that cats may have evolved purring, in part, as a built-in recovery mechanism. Think about what that means for a moment. Cats are predators. They hunt by chasing and leaping. They spend a significant portion of their lives in bursts of intense physical activity, followed by long periods of rest. During that rest, if they're purring, which many cats do almost constantly when resting, they're bathing their skeletal and muscular system in low-frequency vibrations that may actively promote repair and maintenance. It's been called, only half-jokingly, a biological equivalent of ultrasound therapy. The same kind of vibration used in sports medicine to help athletes recover from injuries, except the cat is generating it internally, continuously, for free. This might also explain something that veterinarians have noticed anecdotally for years. Cats tend to heal from musculoskeletal injuries faster than dogs of comparable size. Dogs, for the record, do not purr. They have no equivalent mechanism. It may also explain the phenomenon of cats surviving falls that should, by all physical reasoning, be fatal. Stories of cats falling from remarkable heights, several stories or more, and walking away are well documented enough to have earned a name: high-rise syndrome. While their flexible spines and righting reflex play a role, some researchers have speculated that the bone density maintained through lifelong purring could contribute to their resilience. Now, it's important to be honest here, this research is still developing. The connection between cat purring frequencies and measurable healing effects in the cats themselves hasn't been proven through controlled clinical trials the way we'd need for a medical claim. But the mechanistic plausibility is real, the frequency overlap is real, and the anecdotal evidence from veterinary practice is consistent enough that it's taken seriously by researchers in the field. What we can say with confidence is this: whatever purring evolved to do, it appears to involve more than communication. There's growing evidence that it serves a genuine physiological function, possibly one of maintenance and recovery, that makes cats, in a very literal sense, self-repairing machines. Now let's talk about the purr that might be the most cleverly engineered sound in your household. In 2009, researchers at the University of Sussex, led by Dr. Karen McComb, published a study that identified a distinct variation in cat purring that they called the solicitation purr. They noticed that some cats, particularly cats living closely with humans, produced a specific type of purr when they wanted something. Most commonly, when they were hungry and wanted to be fed. This purr sounded different from a regular purr. On the surface, you might not consciously notice it, but when the researchers analyzed the acoustic structure, they found something hidden inside it. Embedded within the low-frequency rumble of the purr was a higher-frequency component, a brief, rising cry. A vocalization that sat in roughly the same frequency range as a human infant's cry. And that's not a coincidence. Human beings are evolutionarily primed to respond to infant cries. The sound of a baby crying triggers a near-automatic stress response, an urgent need to respond, to soothe, to address whatever the infant needs. It's one of the most deeply embedded behavioral responses in our species. Cats, it appears, have learned to exploit this. By embedding a cry-like frequency into an otherwise soothing purr, cats create a sound that is simultaneously calming and subtly urgent. It's pleasing enough that you don't find it annoying, but it carries just enough of that distress signal frequency that you feel vaguely compelled to do something about it, which, in practice, means you get up and feed the cat. The study found that people, even people who had never owned cats, rated solicitation purrs as more urgent and less pleasant than regular purrs, even when they couldn't consciously identify what was different about them. The subconscious response was measurable and consistent. What makes this particularly fascinating is what it implies about cat cognition and domestication. Cats have been living alongside humans for roughly 10,000 years. Over that time, they appear to have developed targeted, specific vocalizations designed not for communication with other cats. Adult cats almost never meow at each other, but for manipulating humans specifically. Your cat is not meowing because it thinks you speak cat. It's meowing and deploying the solicitation purr because through thousands of years of coevolution, cats have figured out what sounds get humans to respond. It's a form of behavioral adaptation so sophisticated that it's easy to miss. The cat isn't scheming consciously, but natural selection has done the scheming for it. The cats that were best at producing sounds that triggered human responses were the cats that got fed, that were kept, that bred. Over millennia, those traits were reinforced. The result? A small animal that has effectively learned to hack your nervous system with sound, twice a day, before breakfast. Here's a question worth sitting with. When your cat purrs in your lap, is it doing that for you or for itself? The honest answer is probably both, and possibly neither in the way you're imagining. Cats are not emotionally simple, but they're also not emotionally complex in the way humans are. They don't think, I want my owner to feel calm and happy, so I'll purr. But they also don't purr in a total vacuum of self-interest. The current thinking among animal behaviorists is that purring, in social contexts, is a form of affiliative communication, a signal that says, I am safe, you are safe, we are okay. It reduces tension, it maintains social bonds. In that sense, the purr serves the relationship, and in serving the relationship, it serves the cat. Cats that live with humans are, in many ways, in a perpetual state of social bonding with a creature that provides food, warmth, safety, and shelter. Purring is one of the key ways they maintain that bond and keep those resources flowing. But there's also genuine evidence that cats purr when they're entirely alone, when they're in no social context at all. Cats purr while resting in empty rooms. They purr when sick, even when no one is watching. This strongly suggests that at least some purring is fundamentally internal, a self-directed behavior with no communicative function, purely physiological. So the purr contains multitudes. It is at once a healing mechanism, a communication tool, a manipulation strategy, an emotional signal, and possibly just a thing the body does, like breathing, because it is inherently useful to do. The next time you sit down and a cat climbs into your lap and starts to purr, you're experiencing something genuinely remarkable. You're hearing a sound that has been shaped by 10,000 years of evolution alongside human beings. You're feeling vibrations that overlap with frequencies used in medical therapy. You're receiving a signal that your nervous system is biologically primed to find soothing, possibly because the cat has evolved to make it that way. And somewhere in that sound, if the cat is feeling a little peckish, there's a frequency buried inside that purr designed specifically to make you get up and do something about it. Cats, it turns out, are not the simple, aloof, self-contained creatures they're sometimes made out to be. They are finely tuned biological systems running incredibly sophisticated behavioral programs, many of them, it appears, optimized specifically for life with us. The purr is proof of that. It's not just cute, it never was. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing. There's a lot more science like this waiting for you.